Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for iProtect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama, parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a great American and my friend, the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Great, Scott. How are you today?
Man, guys, I am doing fantastic today. I am at the beach. Instead of staying in Mobile this go around, since it's summertime and we avoided a hurricane last week, I am staying in Orange Beach, Alabama with my beautiful wife. And so hopefully we'll at some point this week get to do a little bit of relaxing. I am in a brand spanking new podcast studio with 3D walls for soundproofing, which this thing is way too nice for me to be sitting in right now.
I'm sitting here processing my carrier download.
Well, keep going. Okay. Absolutely. Guys, we're at Deep Fried Studios in Mobile, Alabama today, and we have moved podcast studios.
Couple big steps today.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We are excited to be here. This place is absolutely phenomenal. Everything's it's like getting in a brand new car for the first time. I love it. Guys, our mission on this podcast, we are here to help you agents in any way we can. Sales, marketing, digital, you name it, we're here to help you with that. We have a wonderfully beautiful guest on the show today, and I think he is going to provide some very valuable insight. Now, Bradley, you may disagree with me on this. I don't know. But I feel like our podcast is kind of the tip of the spear in terms of finding out about technology that's out there. Number one, you, more than anybody I know, seem to know all the latest and greatest stuff that's out there. And on this show, I think we talk a lot about new and innovative technology that's in the market.
One of my goals with it is to try to not be the tip of the sword from an egotistical standpoint, but to try to provide the most advanced technology from a value standpoint to our audience.
Absolutely.
And I want somebody to learn something every time they listen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my goal this year, guys, and I think it's one of the things I hear more than anything else, we want to provide actionable steps in each podcast for you guys to turn the podcast off and go do, rather than just listen, turn it off, and think about it for a little while. So today we're going to try to do that. I think it's time to bring on our unbelievably cool guest, and I think you heard me on his podcast last week. Guys, he grew up and currently resides in Yukon, Oklahoma. He is a graduate from Christian Heritage Academy and then studied business at Oklahoma State University. He is married to the beautiful Madison, and they have 2 beautiful boys. He has been an insurance agent since 2014, and he currently serves as the CEO and torchbearer of BriteBee.com, an insurtech company on a mission to help and improve agents' digital exposure online and in search results. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the other incomparable Mr. Keagen Henson. How you doing, Keagen?
Hey, I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Thank you for being on the show. I've got the most important question of the day out of the gate. Are you ready for that?
I'm absolutely ready.
It doesn't sound like it.
Tell Bradley and I and the 250,000 insurance agents that are listening right now, what in the world knockerball is.
Well, knockerball. So just to give a little backstory. So I had an insurance agency, actually sold that last year to start BriteBee.com to serve agents across the country. And knockerball was my second gig to just make sure that I could survive while I started the agency. So I started the agency in 2014. And of course, as anyone knows, you start out with zero and you go, okay, I'm going to make it, but honestly, I don't know if I'm going to make it, right? Right. My goal was to make it.
Sure.
And so I actually started another business as well and ran both the businesses out of my office. Knockerball is a rental company And if you see it, it's kind of a national brand now, but you get in these big bubbles and you hit each other, ram each other. And so I actually grew that while I was growing the insurance agency. I had another child and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And so I made things work and I sold that business as well last year. So 3 businesses in the last 5 years, and I've got one now, and I'm thankful for that.
Well, I think sometimes you have to diversify, especially when you're starting out in the insurance business. That's another one of the multiple mini failures that I have in my life is I've got all my eggs in the insurance basket right now. Some people would say that's good. Some people would say that's bad. I would love to diversify and get into some other businesses myself, just to diversify and just not have all my eggs in one basket. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of look at it. First off, I love business. I love starting businesses. Mm-hmm. Kind of have a thing for that. I really enjoy it. It gets me energized. But also, it's kind of like investments for me, right? You diversify your investments.
Right.
I just like to invest in businesses.
So I'm gonna put you in the passenger seat of my DeLorean. We're gonna go back, and I wanna talk a little bit more about how you got started in the insurance business.
By the way, can I just drop something on you real quick?
Please, go ahead.
So I have been trying for the last 7 days, and you were actually blocked from my Facebook timeline, so you couldn't see this.
Of course I was.
To find someone in the Mobile area that owned a DeLorean, and we were going to surprise you and have the DeLorean pull up outside the door here.
Well, I've got my keys with me right now.
Literally every single DeLorean that is located in the Mobile area does not crank.
Wow. Okay.
So I had 2 or 3 people like, yeah, I've got one, but it doesn't crank.
You have to haul it with a wrecker over there.
Anyway, continue.
I'm sorry. So before we get back in my DeLorean and go back in time, there is a question that has been burning in my mind about you since the very first time I ever started Facebook stalking you, learning more about who Keagen Henson is. So early on in our relationship, Keagan, and you don't know this about me, but I studied you the way the Discovery Channel studies meerkats. And one of the things that has always been uber intriguing to me, and Bradley brings this company up quite often on the podcast and on social media. You were a general manager at Chick-Fil-A, were you not?
Absolutely.
I have got to know, and I think it would be incredibly insightful to the 250,000 insurance agents around the world that are listening to this in terms of training. The training that you got while you were at Chick-fil-A. Give us just 5 bullet points, maybe 3 to 5 bullet points of things that you learned during your time at Chick-fil-A and the training that you received there that kind of translates over to the insurance world.
Wow. Well, it would be my pleasure.
It would be my honor.
To talk about this.
I wasn't prepared for that, but it would be my honor to talk about it.
Yeah. So I actually started in the restaurant industry. My family has all owned restaurants,
yes.
kind of in the blood,
right?
And really enjoy it. But decided to get out. Just looking at the trend of my family with health conditions and everything else, I thought, I think I need a little something safer to keep me stable with my health and everything else. But started at Chick-fil-A when I was in high school and had an amazing opportunity to manage a lot of people when I was in high school, and then went to general manager and opened a store in Yukon, Oklahoma.
Wow.
And so it was a phenomenal opportunity, but man, the things that I learned, I love people and I love serving. Serving is just extremely important to me in everything that we do. But when you're in that type of high performance industry, there's something different about Chick-fil-A. They're extremely high performing, but also the systems that they have in place, a systematic approach to everything, definitely translated very well over to the industry.
Now let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
So systematic approach to everything. Are we talking about? And again, this translates to the insurance industry. When you say systematic approach, are you talking about written, short information relative to processes where everything they do has a step-by-step process on how you do it? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a process for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And though we don't sit there and read the process every single day, it's ingrained in us, and we're trained to understand those processes and act on them every single time, right? And I think, as you guys know, unfortunately, sometimes the industry doesn't have great processes all the time, especially when we're starting our own business. And so that's understandable. And see, right, Bradley. So
I'm sitting here thinking, I wonder what has more moving parts, an insurance agency or a Chick-fil-A?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's one of those things. It's hard to know because there are so many processes. But with that being said, it definitely changed my life and how I thought about how to go about certain things, different ways of doing things, if that makes sense.
Now, did you go down to Atlanta and spend time at the corporate headquarters for Chick-fil-A, like going through training on how to be a general manager and those types of things?
Yeah, so kind of fell into that. I did not go to Atlanta. I did go to Atlanta to see the operation. I actually got to meet Truett Cathy right before he passed away, which was an amazing honor and just a great experience to be able to see the face who's really put this all together.
Oh yeah.
But overall, I train mostly. Chick-fil-A has a phenomenal operation to bring the people to your town and train you there versus you having to go somewhere else.
Gotcha. So they do have trainers that go travel out across the country to the new Chick-fil-A's. I guess they could go to, if one starts underperforming, they could actually go into those as well and kind of prop them up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I say they have one of the best support systems there is.
And give me one takeaway in terms of the customer experience that Chick-fil-A provides, like maybe something that I know Disney has, that create the magic thing that they do with their employees, where they empower each employee that if they see a kid that's crying because mom and daddy won't get them the Mickey Mouse ears they want, they have the authority to walk over and go, "Hey buddy, you want these ears?" Yeah, I do. I'm crying. Well, here, you can just have them. And they call that creating the magic at Disney World, right?
Yeah, so it's all about second mile service. So everyone goes the
agents,
first mile.
write that shit down, agents. Write that shit down. Second mile service.
Second mile service. It's all about the second mile service. And, we all have to do the first mile, right? We're required to, it's how we get paid or whatever. But when it comes to the second mile, it's truly a mind shift. It's a mind change. It's a heart change, honestly. That how will you go the second mile? And that is not, that's not up to the process. So just because the process says this doesn't mean that you don't go further, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so I think it's extremely important. And honestly, I think Chick-fil-A helps even young individuals when they come in. And that's why, people say it's so important to work at a restaurant when you're young. It's so important to work at a Chick-fil-A when you're young because it helps you understand what going the extra mile truly means.
I love that so much.
So second mile, I would say, is a big thing.
Here's the thing too. Something I don't think I've ever mentioned on the podcast is, you mentioned Disney. So I'm going to kind of tie these two together. So a friend of mine who actually is going to be in the studio today doing a podcast with us, Scott Tyndall, attended the Disney Institute where they teach you their, customer service training and things like that. And one thing they talk about is on stage, off stage.
Right.
So, no matter what you have going on in your personal life, whatever, when you're at the office, when you're in front, especially in front of that customer, you are on stage.
Absolutely.
And to back up, I was on Facebook one time and somebody posted something about how great Chick-fil-A's customer service is, or what I call customer experience. I don't think it's customer service. And this guy comments and he says, it's all fake, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, well, we really don't all get along that good. We're really all not that nice.
Oh,
it's
he was a Chick-fil-A guy.
Yeah, he's an ex-Chick-fil-A employee.
Right.
It's all fake. We don't get along that well.
Right.
We're not that nice. And I'm like, who cares?
Right.
It's what about it's
your own stage.
It's how do you convey that to the customer? That's all that matters.
Right.
I mean, if you're a shitty person behind the scenes, I mean, that's your problem, not the customer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's absolutely true. I mean, first off, we're all people, and people don't always get along, whether it's in the business, in a restaurant, or in an insurance agency. But I think one thing that Chick-fil-A does very well is they teach you and they train you how to do your job. And they help you understand how to discern when you're doing your job. So whatever the personal side is, really when it comes down to when you're in the business, this is how you respond. These are the principles that you abide by. And so not everyone lives the same way, and so that's the deal. I mean, you're expected.
Let's say you are not that nice of a person. Okay. Let's say you're not the my pleasure, thank you, have a great day type of person. But if you are constantly exposed to that environment, it's going to rub off on you.
Absolutely.
Sure. And if it doesn't, you're immediately gone.
Right. Well, it's with our agency, we have 4 core values, and we hire against those and we fire against those.
Right.
And after 2 months, if you don't meet all 4 of those, you're gone. It doesn't matter how high of a producer you are.
Well, to Bradley's point, Keagan, one of the core values in my agency that I harp on all the time, and Bradley's heard me say it in one way, which is we need Paula Deen and sweet tea. But one of the core values and cultures in my agency that I've been harping on since day one is on stage, off stage, because every single employee I have, including myself, we just take turns going through one catastrophe after another in our personal life. 1 month it's Scott going through this, thing that is just unbelievably bad. And then the next month it's somebody else that's going through a divorce, or their kid's sick and in the hospital, and mother's about to pass away and she's in a hospital. I think now I've got one that has a father that's about to pass away.
And we've all got stuff.
Everybody.
And as a leader, you've got to take that employee and make them feel okay.
Sure.
You've got to acknowledge it. You've got to talk to them about it if they want to talk to about it. But when you're in front of that customer, I'm not talking about when you walk in the door, it's on stage, off stage.
Right.
I'm talking about when you are dealing with that customer, you've got to put a face on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm bad at it.
Yeah. To give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about, my largest commercial producer that writes about $1 million in premium a year, 2 weeks ago, his brother puts a gun to his head in a parking lot, in like a Walmart Target parking lot somewhere, and pulls the trigger and commits suicide 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So I mean it when I say that it seems like my agency goes into this rotation of tragedy, and some of this stuff. A customer walks in to make a payment. Guy calls you because he's got a problem with his bill. If you're not on stage when you answer that phone or you're in front of that customer, I'm not going to say that they don't care, but people seem to care a lot more about what they've got going on than what you've got going on. And you've got to find a way when you're in front of that customer to put the happy face on and create the magic for them. And then as soon as they're gone, you can go back to whatever state of mind that you're in at that moment. And it's not just my agency. It's every agency that's listening to this right now. Everybody has the same thing going on. So that's enough of that, guys. I want to go back. I want to go back to Keagan. Keagan, jump in the passenger seat of my DeLorean. We'll imagine that this one actually works. And talk to our audience. Let's go back in time for just a little bit and tell us how you got into the insurance industry, and then work us up to today.
Yeah. So as I said, I started out in the restaurant industry and worked a lot in high school. I had phenomenal opportunity. I missed pretty much everything in the high school realm, but I gained a lot in the work environment. And so some would believe that was bad, and a lot of believe that would be bad, and then very few would believe it was good. But it's why I'm here today. So I actually worked for Chick-fil-A. Then I got married and married my best friend. Actually was planning on marrying someone else, and figured out my best friend was the one that I needed to spend the rest of my life with. And so
script. There's been how many romantic comedies have been that particular script right there? About 100.
Well,
seems like anyway.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we definitely did not write this. It was crazy, but didn't even date my best friend. I just one day said, that's the person I need to marry, and we literally got engaged in like 24 hours.
That is awesome.
And so that's a whole nother story. But right after that, my wife, who has lived in Yukon, Oklahoma, her whole life, picked up and moved to Washington, D.C., and worked for another restaurant chain and helped them expand into suburb areas, and decided once my wife was pregnant there, they said, hey, look, DC is not the place that we want to raise our child. And my wife was already telling me that she really didn't want to live here.
Wow. Okay.
And maybe that was by the crying and everything else. And right. she would, I can say that because she would tell you that as well. She cried a lot while she was there. And so we said, okay, let's go back. And it was like, well, what are we going to go back to? And I just looked at the trend of my family and, being very successful in the restaurant industry, all of them, I just said, though I could do this, they all got out because they didn't have the time with their family, or their health deteriorated because of it. And I said, I don't want to follow that trend. Though I know success could be there, I don't really care about that. I'd prefer to care more about my family at that time. And so I went into insurance at that point. I called my father-in-law, who's actually an insurance agent in Oklahoma City. And I said, hey, can I come work for you? And he said, Keagan, you're going to hate this. And I said, well, I can you let me try? And he was like, you can come do whatever the heck you want, but I'm telling you, you're not going to like this.
What was his,
you're going to be bored.
What was his reasoning behind his thought process behind you hating it so much?
I think because I move extremely quick. So, when most people take months to do something, I try to do it in a day.
Love it.
And that can be a good or bad thing. But with that, I said, hey, okay, if I don't like it, if I get bored, okay, I can go somewhere else.
Right.
But he said, yeah, sure. So in about, I would say 9 months, I said, hey, look, I think I can go start my own agency in the Yukon area. What do you think? And he said, go do it.
Right.
And so I went out there and started. And so started from scratch, actually represented AAA insurance, and the way they work in Oklahoma area is that we function more like an independent. So we have many other companies that we ride under. And so it was a phenomenal opportunity to have that core brand, but also to have the experience with all these other carriers.
Right.
So did that. And, my father-in-law said, Keagan, I really don't know. Very honestly, I don't know how long the insurance agent's going to be around because of technology. And, I thought, okay, great. I've just signed a 3-year lease on a brand new building. I have just hired my first employee. And I have 0 clients and have 0 revenue. So I'm in a great position here.
Right.
And so that was on my mind as I started. It didn't stop me from starting, but it definitely was in my mind of, okay, how am I going to survive? I'm kind of one of those people that look at life or death. It's kind of, okay, I'm either going to live through this or I'm going to die through it.
Right.
And I usually choose to live.
Right.
And so, or I find a way to live. And so all of that being said, that was really what started my mind thinking about, how do I innovate? How do I bring new technology into my agency? How do I build processes around to make my life easier and my team's life easier? How do we not forget things? I saw so many agencies and my peers, like they were known for forgetting things. They were known for not keeping their word on things. And it wasn't that they were intentionally doing it. It was just that they were so busy.
Right.
And I said, okay, I can't be that. People have to know that I keep my word at all times.
Right.
And so I started implementing technology to do that. And I was kind of known as the young guy who was doing things differently. And everyone was trying to figure out what was going on. But, of course, they stay somewhat clear of me. But that's when I really learned a lot. And that's really when I came to the point of understanding that marketing was going to be extremely important for me. And my digital presence was extremely important, but I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed. The carriers, I didn't feel like I had, support from the carriers and all these different things, and not saying anything bad towards them, but really coming to a point to say, okay, what do I do?
Right.
What do I do? I'm I've got this agency that I'm trying to grow. I don't have unlimited funds here.
And it's a lonely feeling when you sit down with a carrier rep and you can't even tell them everything that you're working on because you know that they'll either A, not understand it, or B, think it's stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you kind of feel like you're here and the carriers are, you know what I mean? And lonely is really not the right word. It's just it's kind of a weird spot to be in.
But I've always said, and I continue to maintain, what you just said, what just came out of your mouth, is the biggest advantage we have. Because for carriers, using technology, doing the things that they do, it's like moving the Titanic out of the way of the iceberg. For us as insurance agents, if we listen to the Insurance Guys podcast, take a technology, you can have it up and running tomorrow. They can't do that. You can't, if you're nationwide and one of your, middle level marketing people hears something on our podcast, you got to go up 14 different chains. It has to be approved. Okay, well, maybe we can do that next year. That's kind of what they do. But is that not a huge advantage that we have as agents?
Yeah. Well, in my agency, kind of my value add to my team is we provide them with unlimited leads. That's what I do is marketing.
Right.
I can generate you all the leads you can work. My team has so many leads that they're working on, so many things they're working on that they can't adequately keep up, and we're about to hire a third person. And just last week, a carrier rep, all these carrier reps talk.
Right.
But so do all the agents.
Right.
And I had an agent call me and said, hey, such and such with such and such company said that he didn't think what you were doing is going to be sustainable because you're so focused on marketing.
Wow.
And I'm like, my people have more prospects than they know what to do with.
Right.
Like, how does the math of that not work out? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's just from the outside looking in, it's hard. You know what I mean? Because you're doing two completely different jobs.
Right.
But you're right. And actually, probably one of the proudest moments I've had since I started the agency is 2 weeks ago, one of my team members had to take a week off. She was sick, took 7 days off. And when she got back, it took us 45 minutes to update her on all the changes, major changes.
Right.
And I like that.
Yeah.
And when Keagan said he was moving fast, like I like that. And coming from an agency, not scared to say it now, that operated like ABC insurance carrier in 1933 and took forever to make a change.
Right.
The fact that I can now say, all right, let's do it, and it gets done.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we want to implement Slack, if we want to connect something to our management system, we can make those changes. It literally took us 45 minutes to update her on, okay, we got this, all these changes. That's how fast we move. And I always want to be like that.
Right. So, definitely. Keagan, I think where we left off is you were still, at this point in time, at AAA, you were starting to feel I guess, for lack of a better term, lack of support, maybe, in terms of the things that you wanted to do. And then go ahead and go from there. I'm sorry we interrupted you.
No, it's great. So that's when I really started thinking about, okay, how can I help myself, but also how can I help other people? Because this is a need that all of these agents are facing. Right. And it's that thought of, I really started understanding the value of the agent at that point. I started understanding the struggle. I started thinking like an agent, okay, if I invest in this, how many policies is it going to take me to sell this? Right. And to do this and to take risk and everything else. And you start really understanding more so of why agents think the way they do. It's hard work. And selling is not easy, especially with insurance. With all of that, that's when I came with the idea of BriteBee, and it's not completely changed, but it definitely has morphed since we first started. Sure. And the first idea was, okay, we're going to provide an online marketplace for consumers to come and shop and compare quotes online with insurance agents, not with just like lead gen sites, but actually feel safe knowing that they're with a person and they can gather those their quotes and make the best decision for them. What we found in that was there were some things, the way we built our platform and just some other things with consumers and their experience. And we said, okay, we really need to step back and think about this further and think about the agent more and how can we help them and how can we provide the consumer the best experience possible. And so what we did was, at that point, I actually sold my business. I wanted to make sure there was no conflict of interest with what I was doing with the carriers, because I said those carriers are going to be my clients one day. And I want to make sure I end with a really good relationship. And so sold that business, sold the other business, and really said, okay, we are going to dive into BriteBee and figure this out. And we've been on a mission ever since. So at that point, that's when we went full throttle. We actually, I'll be completely honest, we almost ran out of money. And we said, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive this? Because most people would say, well, we ran out of money. And, we've already tried funding and that didn't work or whatever. And they just give up. And, as I said, I'm like, survival. How do we survive through all of this? How do we make it? And I'm not concerned about where we are right now. I'm concerned about where we're going to be. And so how do we make it to get there? And so we actually started listening to the agents, and they started saying, well, guys, we really like your marketing. We love your branding. We love all these different things. And we said, okay. And they said, well, if you'll do marketing for us, we'll pay for it. And so we spun up a marketing agency for insurance agents like in days.
I remember you and I had a conversation about it around that time, right?
Yeah. Some people would say, well, you lost focus. I'm like, I'm not losing focus here. I'm surviving so we can get that focus back.
Right.
And,
it's a pivot.
And so we actually, so what we said was, we were going to start this marketing agency to help us survive and bootstrap so we can start developing better technology and a better experience. And that is when we got accepted into the Global Insurance Accelerator and received investment.
Now, let me stop you right there. Folks, I want you to listen to this. So he's about to start talking about the Global Insurance Accelerator, which is an insurtech accelerator. And before he starts talking about it, let me tell you about this guy that we've got on the podcast today. Keagan, please correct me if I'm wrong. He uprooted his family for 3 months, and they moved to Iowa for 3 months to be a part of the Global Insurance Accelerator. Now, you take it from there.
So, yes, I did so here's the deal. We applied for the Global Insurance Accelerator, and I had no hope of getting in. I literally threw it out there and said, this money would be nice, but there's just no way. Like, just where we're at in the stage of our company, we're just not there. And I was completely realistic. And so I didn't think we got it. And I got a call one day and said, Keagan, you're in. I need to know in 24 hours if you're coming. And
okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there, because I want to explain to the audience what this is. Explain to our agents that are listening to this right now what exactly the Global Insurance Accelerator is, so they understand that.
Yeah, so the Global Insurance Accelerator is an accelerator that is global. So they take people from all around the world. This last cohort, it's a 3-month program, but they only do it once a year. And they took 10 companies, 10 startups in all different stages, some from just the very idea and nothing else, and some that had something, and some who were trying to figure out who they were. And I would say I felt like we were all of those.
Right.
We came in to that with 12 carriers who invest into the GIA. So carriers like Allstate, Prudential, Farm Bureau, EMC, Markel, all of these different carriers come in and say, we want to be a part. And they put actually $100,000 in each. And then that is distributed to the 10 different companies.
Now let me stop you right there, because in my mind, and I think, I'm not Scott. I am the 250,000 insurance agents from around the world that listen to this. And I think that we as a collective group are envisioning like a Shark Tank type scenario where there's 7, 8 guys and girls sitting in chairs, and you're walking out on stage and you're giving your pitch for what BriteBee is and what it can become. Is that kind of what this is?
Yeah, no. So it's very different.
Okay.
Much more laid back, I would say.
Right.
These people, the sharks. That's one of those things where it's kind of dramatized, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're sitting in front of these people And I'm telling them exactly where we've come from. I mean, I'm telling them all these things and I'm thinking, there ain't no way. There ain't no way. I'm pretty open and honest. And sometimes people say I'm a little too like open, but honestly, I'd rather people just know where we are. And so I told them where we are, where we've come from, what we're struggling with, what we just created, a marketing agency to help fund ourselves. And I'm thinking they think that I'm a nutcase and there ain't no way. Right. And so we're kind of sitting that way. And, these people have had startups themselves. Some have startups now. Some people have IPO'd. I mean, there's lots of different people in the room. Right. And so lots of different levels of, what we call success. But the people, it's very interesting. But as you guys know, Iowa, Des Moines is the capital of, insurance. And so there are tons of people talking the same language. Right. There. And so they understood to some degree what we were doing, but were intrigued enough to say, okay, let's give them a shot. And so that's really where we came. And he said, you've got 24 hours to let me know. They were on a time crunch. And honestly, at that point, I didn't even want to go. I was just like, you know what, we'll do this a different way. And I told my team, I said, hey, here's all the reasons why we shouldn't go. And my advisors came back in 5 minutes. I was amazed at how quick. And they said, you have to do this, Keagan. And I'm usually the opposite. I'm usually like jump and we'll figure out where our wings are later. My team said, Keagan, why are we not doing this? And I said, okay, well, if you guys are in, I will move our family.
Let's talk about the psychology of your reasoning behind not wanting to go. Was this fear on your part of failure? Is this low self-esteem? What would cause a kid that's achieved as much as you have to get to, I don't want to say the finish line because it was kind of the starting line, but you get there, you get what you kind of were hoping to get, and then you start doing the whole, I don't think we ought to go. What would psychologically cause you to do that?
Well, so I think the first thing was I already felt a little burned by investors. Okay. And so I had just gone through kind of this time frame of talking to a lot of investors. I think every startup goes through that time of like, okay, am I going to test the waters on talking to investors and seeing what I can get? Right. And I kind of came to this point of like, we're just going to do this organically. We're just going to do this. And then I think there was a selfish part as well of saying, I don't want to give these people that I don't really know equity into this company that we are dying for. And then the other thing is I was really concerned about my family. I was concerned about how are we going to make this work? I've got 2 little boys that I don't want to have to leave this company because I can't provide for them, or I can't provide even their dad, to be there. If that makes sense. And so I just had all these, literally, I was pretty emotional, like all these feelings of, it wasn't about fear or doubt. I mean, honestly, I was to a point where, you kind of run in fear, right? You're just like, okay, this is not working exactly how we liked, or this is not going how we would have thought and everything else. So you kind of get, a numb to all of that. Right. That's kind of where my mind was. And I looked at what was funny was, I'm typing this email out and my wife never looks at my emails or my computer when I'm working. And that day she walks in and she decides to stand over me. And I look at her and I say, I don't know what you're doing, but I have not talked to you about this email that I'm sending.
But you're getting on my damn nerves standing over me right now.
and I don't know what you're doing, and she read it and she just was like, oh, like, what's going on? And so it was kind of a shock, that wasn't the way I wanted to, pretty much say, hey, we're moving. Right. But that's how it happened. And so that's when we decided, I think we had 3 weeks roughly to pick up. And, people don't have to move, but in our family, we were in a place where we could move. And then also there was no way to travel every week. That was just, I just didn't think that would be good for my health nor for my family. Right. And so we said, we're just going to call this an adventure. Right. And so we moved into a little hotel and lived there for the next 3 months in the, I think record-breaking snow and cold. And I mean, it's like -20 something there during this time. And so we just said, we're going to call this a journey, and we're going to grow through it, and we're going to survive through this.
I love it. The great adventure. So you get there, and let's talk briefly, and then I want to move on to our last topic of the day. But you get there, and I'm assuming that 3-month stretch that while you're there, what are they dissecting your company, giving you feedback, things that they feel like will work, won't work? Is that kind of what goes on?
Yeah. So for the first 3 weeks, it's really like speed dating.
Right.
We met hundreds of people, and we're talking to them about what we're doing, what we're working on, everything there. And it was an eye opener for us. We were definitely encouraged to be there, to hear so much good feedback. And it wasn't always good feedback towards what we were doing, but good feedback and constructive
the way
criticism.
You were going, maybe.
Right. Absolutely. And so we really did not, I would say, we kept seeing the light as we continue to move forward in the program. But we really came to a point where we said, okay, we built this wrong, and we need to go rebuild this again. And that was when it was like, this is what we need to do. And it wasn't going to be any easier, but this is what we need to do. This is why we need to do this. And so that's when we really, we call it our 2.0. We took out the middleman. The BriteBee was the middleman of things. And it was causing some friction between the consumer and the agent. And we said, let's take it out, and let's make sure that we can help people find insurance agents where they're searching. So, the problem is that insurance agents are not being found where consumers are searching online. And so our whole goal and our mission is to help consumers find insurance agents where they are searching, and then get them to that agent as quickly as possible, get the information in front of them as quickly as possible, versus trying to have some middleman get a piece of the pie. And so we took that out, and we started seeing the light, and that's when carriers were talking to us about how they were interested in what we were doing. And we're so excited to say that we just signed a pilot agreement with a carrier. And so that was a huge win for us, and we're so excited to be a partner with them. So
all the agents that are listening to this, like I am, just heard you say that insurance agents aren't reaching people, and maybe it was the companies. I don't know which you were speaking of, but maybe it's both. But I know that all the insurance agents listening to this right now are sitting there thinking, well, hell, if we're not reaching them where they are, where do we need to be? So my question to you is, can you discuss that? Is that something that you can talk about, or is that some type of proprietary thing right now that you
aren't?
Okay.
Yeah, no. So we are very, very open in what we're doing. And, honestly, we try to keep things extremely simple. A lot of people want to sell this, all this technology and how it's going to change your life and everything else. And then you think about it and you're like, okay, well, for an agent, how long is this going to take me to implement? How much is it going to cost me? And how much time is it going to be on me every single day of my life? How many more systems can I have? And we just decided, hey, we're going to do things differently. So we've started out really simple. We're actually an online directory that is specifically built for the insurance industry. It's specifically built for search engines. And so, there's architecture behind our platform to where search engines really like it, because it's feeding them the data that they need to help the consumers who are searching be able to find what they're needing.
Right.
And so what we have done is we've created an online directory that is specifically geared toward agencies and agents. We are working with carriers because whether people believe it or not, there are many carriers out there who are very focused on the insurance agent and their success. But the problem is that they're still searching for what can help them best, and what can they do that's cost effective. So there's a lot of different moving parts there. But what we are doing is providing a platform where agents can be found, and we're really working on niche markets as well. So not just, home and auto, but really getting down into commercial and different niche markets. And this is, guys, just everyone to hear me, this is a process. You can't just go spin up a website one day and then just think that everything's going to come to you.
Yeah, here come the leads.
What we want to be is an additional channel, a strong, additional channel, an advocate for the agent, to be found in multiple different places online. And so we don't believe we're the end all. And I don't believe if anyone tells you that, I think they are lying to you. And we want to be a channel, a very strong channel to help insurance agents grow. As a marketing agency, what we figured out was when we looked at people's websites and they said, well, I want to do SEO work and I want to do all these things. We said, okay, these sites were not built for that. They were not built. The architecture that they have were not built. And so we were looking at it, and out of 190 people that we kind of did a case study on, it was going to be over $1 million of work to fix these things. And we said, that right now, I just don't believe is doable for all these agents.
Right.
I don't believe it's something that they fully understand, which is completely understandable because I don't think people have explained it well. And so we said we have to provide a platform that can help them improve their online exposure without them having to spend $6,000 on their website. Right. Just to start. And so that's when we really started building the platform to help generate more online exposure for them. And we control and we help update all these changes that Google's making and search engines are making so that they don't have to worry and spend all the money on that all the time.
So two things I want to say to the audience. Number one, to my knowledge, Bradley, correct me if I'm wrong, we are not getting paid a dime, not one dime to discuss this.
Correct.
I have Keagen Henson on this podcast right now for one reason and one reason only, and that is to help insurance agents. And my friend and great American, and I love him a lot more than he loves me, even though he would argue that, Mr. Mike Stromsoe says it best.
I think the podcast listeners would say you love him more than he loves you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Mike Stromsoe says it best, guys. If you want to reach 100% of the market, you got to be where 100% of the market is. Now, is BriteBee going to tackle 100% of the market? Absolutely not. But it's everything that you do in totality. It's the Facebook ads. It's the BriteBee. It's the social media posting. It's Bradley right now videoing me. It's our videographer G-Torch over here. So, yeah, what's up, G-Torch? G-Torch, who is videoing this right now. It's everything in totality that gets you to 100% of the market. It's the local football advertising in the little football program that your local football team has. It's all of it. You want to reach 100% of the market, then you got to get where 100% of the market is, and that's not easy. And I think that's one of the things that you're kind of touching on right now. So, Keagan, do me a favor and tell the audience if they are interested in learning more about BriteBee and how you guys can help them reach a portion of this 100% we're trying to get
in
to
a different kind of way.
Absolutely. How do they get in touch with you? Where do they go?
Yeah, so they just go to BriteBee.com and they can say that they want to claim their page. I'll tell you, we are at $39.95 to be on the platform for a whole agency per month. So we try to keep it extremely cost effective, and we try to make it where you don't have to worry about, okay, if I have a producer leave, then I gotta change the pricing and all this stuff. We've made it to where it's flat. So if you have 100 producers that are underneath you, you can add 100 producers. If you have 10, you can add 10. All of that is additional content for you that will help you increase your online exposure. With that being said, if you do write for Markel and you have a direct relationship with them, I would love to talk to you more because we have a discounted rate for those people because of the relationship that we have. So that is a huge win for insurance agents, and they are a huge support for insurance agents. So that's something I would love to talk to more.
Okay, I've got to move on to our next topic because I've got one more thing to cover before we get off this show, and Bradley's telling me to wrap this up. So before we move on to that next topic, I want you to email me, Scott Howell, your application for getting on board with BriteBee, and I will promise you, we'll be down here most of the week, but next week you and I are going to get together, and my agency is going to be part of that. So email me the application or whatever I need to fill out to get this ball rolling, and we're going to do that. Now, last thing of the day before I get off this podcast, you visit a lot of agency offices. My goal in 2019 is to give these agents some actionable steps of things that they can change in their agency to become better. That's what we do on this podcast. So one of the things we talked about right when we got on the podcast today, before we came on air, was I said, I want to give these agents some actionable steps. You visit a lot of agency offices. Tell us just 3 or 4 bullet points of things that you see when you're out in these different agency offices that agents can do better, or things that they could tweak just a little bit to have more success in sales and increase their profitability.
The one thing I think about is I think every agent thinks about, what am I good at?
Right.
I think we all focus on that, right? And we say, okay, if we do more of that, then it's going to go great, right? It's kind of like if you think of the GIF, I Love Lucy, and she's getting the chocolate from the conveyor belt. You guys remember that? Where she's just like scrambling, and she's putting it in her shirt, and
right.
she's trying to keep up. But she's, if
iconic
she just continues
episode.
to do,
yeah, right. Yeah.
If she continues to do what she's good at, it must work out, right? I think we need to shift our thoughts. I think we need to shift our thoughts as insurance agents to say, what is possible? And, we're good at all these things, but the question is what is possible? Mm-hmm. What could we be doing? What can we do? What could we take a risk on? And I think we've got to be able to think about what's in the future, what's to come, not what's now, but what is going to happen later down the road. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that the insurance agent's going to go away, but I do believe that the insurance agent's going to have struggles if they do not start thinking about the future now. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds cliche because we hear it all the time, but I think if we start thinking about what is possible, what can my agency do that they're not doing right now, and how could we take risk? How could we take calculated risk, fail some and win some? And a lot of the times what we don't want to do is we've worked so hard in our insurance agencies that we don't want to really lose. We know how to win, right? And so we don't really want to lose because we've lost a lot when we first started. And I think we've got to flip our thought process and say, okay, what is possible? What can I take risk on? And if I lose, what can I learn from it? And I don't believe all this, when we think about failure, I don't consider it failure. I consider it learnings. That all the things that I've done thus far, I say it's my Harvard degree. Yeah, I paid for it, but in the end, I've learned so much along the way. And I think that's really where we have to flip our mindset, is truly asking ourselves, okay, Keagan, what is possible here? What could it be? Right. We don't know how to get there, but we're going to start moving forward and go towards it.
And when you talk about failure versus success and not being afraid to fail, are you speaking in terms of marketing and advertising methods that insurance agents may try relative to the insurtechs that are out there that are more and more becoming seen less of a disruptor, okay, and more of a assistant to the insurance agent that's out there? Because in my mind, and what I'm hearing is, for the past 5 years, we've been hearing insurtech, disruptor, going to disrupt, going to do away with the agent. And now that's morphing itself into, hey, we insurtechs, yeah, we want to disrupt the industry by helping and assisting agents in getting better, bringing in more business, making things simpler, as Bradley likes to say, making your agency more customer-centric focused. Is that where you're speaking of in terms of success and failure and things that these agents try? Is that what you're talking about?
Man, I'm really talking about it all. Okay. I'm talking that, marketing is a huge part. And I see, with where we are, I see that marketing is definitely something that people can take some more risk on. And actually, everyone's like, well, I want the return on investment.
Right.
Guys,
right.
Return on investment, it takes time, but it also sometimes it takes sacrifice.
Right.
It takes sacrifice to get your brand out there. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get every lead from that. But the other thing is that I think about, asking myself, okay, well, if I acquire as an agent, if I acquire that agency, that other agency, what's possible if I do that?
Right.
If I do this, what's possible? And I think that's where, we don't look outside of our agency. What other opportunities are out there, and how could I flow that into the agency to make it greater?
Well, Keagan, I could sit here and talk to you for 14 hours straight, and I can't do that today. But I want you to know something. I absolutely love you, and I love what you are doing in the industry, because since the very first second that I met Keagen Henson, the story has never changed. I am trying to do something to help insurance agents, and it's always been, don't care, I'm going to set my ego aside, and we're going to do at BriteBee what's best for the agent and not necessarily what's best for BriteBee. And I think you have worked harder, probably harder than anybody I've ever met. It's kind of like going out to the rifle range when you're in the Marine Corps. Adjust your windage, adjust your company, adjust how you're doing things, try something different. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else. And I think you're through this process, including your time at the Global Insurance Accelerator, you've continued to adjust and readjust and fire again and readjust. And I think you're getting there. I think you're getting to where you feel good about what you guys are doing, your mission, and what you're doing moving forward. And on behalf of the 250,000 insurance agents listening to this, I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. We are excited to struggle for you guys.
Absolutely. That's probably the best way that I've ever heard it put. Guys, my friend and great American Jeff Roy says this: don't skate where the puck is. Skate where the puck is going. And at its truest essence of what we just got through spending an hour and 15 minutes talking about on the podcast, you guys have got to skate where the puck is. Get your ass out from behind that desk today and go make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids, for your parents that are struggling. Go be successful for them, if for nobody else. Write good business for the agencies that you represent, and write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Keagan.
Keagan, I love you too, brother. Y'all have a great day.
You guys. Appreciate it.
We will see you back here soon on the next episode of the Insurance Guys podcast. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of The Insurance Guys.